Walk and Talk, episode 14. This one's about the prophecy scam. I have given you the tools in this video to cure you of your stupidity. All prophecy is a scam, just like magic tricks. Magic is just the art of deception. The same is true for prophecy. There has never been a legitimate prophecy, either written or spoken, in the same way that no one has ever demonstrated magic. Magic is deception. Prophecy is the deception. There has never been anything supernatural that actually happened. Everything that has always happened has been a natural occurrence. And every supernatural occurrence is a deception of some sort. Either they lied when they wrote the stories, or they just tricked people into believing something supernatural happened. Believing in magic and supernatural things and prophecy is for the uneducated and low IQ. Is that you? Are you so easily deceived that you think WWE wrestling is real? Or that David Blaine has superpowers? Or that Jesus walked on water and resurrected from the dead? Christians are actually that dumb. They want to believe in magic because it makes life more interesting for them. They think there is no meaning to life unless you believe in magic. I believe living your entire life never being able to identify what is true and believing in fictional things as if they're true is a complete waste of life. I want to define prophecy. When I say prophecy, I'm talking about a divine revelation of the future. That has never, ever happened. We have lots of claims for prophecy, but no legitimate divine revelation of the future. I believe all prophecy can be divided into three types of deception. One type is if you write a story about something that already happened in the past, but write it as if you were writing it in the past, predicting the future. This is what Jesus did when he talked about the destruction of the temple. It was written after the fact, but they backdated it to make you think it was before, so he predicted the future. The second type is to take something that was actually written in the past and then pretend it is about you. You can either write a fictional story and say, oh look, that was about me or Jesus, or you can just purely reinterpret it to mean whatever you want it to mean. And the third type of prophecy deception is to simply say something that has never happened, will never happen, but if you have an audience that is gullible enough to believe one of the first two methods, then you can control them by these completely false prophecies that will never happen. You see, once they can convince you that prophecy is real, then they can control you and make you believe anything. I don't know how modern day magicians do most of their tricks. I know how they do some of them. And they're all just tricks and deceptions. There's no magic ever. Magic is never the explanation for anything, unless you're an idiot. But I do know how every single prophecy is a scam in the Bible. If you believe there has ever been a prophecy or a prophet in the history of humanity, then I can cure you of your stupidity in this video. I hope you won't take offense to that, because I was a Christian for over 40 years and I was stupid too. But I have the cure for that stupidity. When people tell you that Moses wrote the Torah in 1500 BC, all you got to do is say, how do you know that? Rather than be a dunce and say, oh, okay. When you actually look for the evidence, most scholars will even tell you that there's no evidence that Moses was even a real person, and that there is no evidence that there was a massive exodus of Israelites out of Egyptian bondage in about the 15th century BC. So then you ask, what is the evidence that we have as to when the Old Testament was actually written? And when you find out that the Dead Sea Scrolls, found in 1947, is the oldest manuscript evidence that we have of the Old Testament, and they date to about the 2nd century BC. You can find tiny slivers of what might be evidence of Old Testament writings prior to that, but it's extremely scant and weak. And most everything in the Old Testament, both the Torah and the whole Tanakh, has innumerable references to Babylon, and that's a huge clue. So when Isaiah mentions Cyrus, king of Persia, by name, the intelligent person will understand that this was not a prediction of a future king's name and his accomplishments, but it is a story about the past that was deceptively written from a perspective of a prophet. The only way that you can ever prove that something predicted the future is if you can first prove that the prediction was made before the event. And there is absolutely no proof for anything in the entire Bible that it was written before the event that it describes. The New Testament is no different. When Jesus predicted the destruction of the temple, there's no evidence that Jesus existed prior to the destruction of the temple, or that these letters or gospels were written prior to 70 CE. And only a fool would assume that a miracle happened, or that Jesus divinely predicted the future. So I'm not actually taking the position that miracles are impossible or that prophecy is impossible. I'm saying that it is foolish to assume that it is a divine prediction of the future when you can't prove it. There is a valid saying which goes, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So if I tell you that I can run and jump, that doesn't require a ton of evidence. In fact, you might be able to believe me without requiring additional evidence. You can see that I can walk, but I'm not running or jumping. Would you believe that I can run and jump? But if I told you I could fly like Superman, if you were wise, you would demand evidence to prove it. If you're a fool, you could just believe it. Here's another wise saying, faith is for fools. If you're too afraid to question the miraculous claims of your faith, that means you're indoctrinated and brainwashed, and that you are a cult member. Cult members do not question their leaders, and brainwashed people believe in supernatural claims without evidence. I have given you the tools in this video to cure you of your stupidity, to give you your freedom back from the cult and the brainwashing that you're in. Now you have to ask yourself, do you want the truth? And do you want to be free from indoctrination and brainwashing? I honestly believe that most of you do not want the truth, and you do not want to be free from your delusions. But the few of you who actually want the truth and want your freedom, you're welcome.